Hi everyone. I'm honored to be here in my hometown today. Great to see the fall colors and be home again. It's an honor to speak about a subject that I've been doing a lot during my career and that I'm very interested in. So I wanted to start this presentation with a song and dance made famous by a guy we all know. I wanted to sing a song about my city at the same time. I decided not to do that after all. Instead, I found this one information slide about impact of app developers across the world on the App Store. And it's quite astonishing that what we Finns have been able to do in this new marketplace, in this new industry, surpassing by far many other countries. And that's one of the reasons we have a full room today. You're all in the right business right now when it comes to Finland and when it comes to where there's a lot of business happening and the economy is moving. Games is also one of the few industries that is truly growing at this moment. So good for all of you to be here. Then to the actual topics. Just one slide about Playground and my own background. Then I want to talk a little bit about the marketplace, which will lead to why player acquisition actually makes sense, and then a short note about how we could maybe work together. The bulk of the information is in number 2 and number 3, so this is not going to be one of those presentations where I only talk about us and how we can work together. This is not an advertorial. In any case, Playground. We were founded in 2012 by Martin Noyons, who is also the founder of the International Mobile Gaming Awards, together with MTI, Japan's #1 mobile content provider. We focus on innovative games. If anybody wants to speak with me afterwards about what that actually means, I'm happy to elaborate. The management team has a lot of experience with games and with media. We've been involved in developing or publishing over 200 games across the team, and we actually counted. We've also played over 4,000 mobile games, which is, all things considered, quite a high number. We have offices here and there, and we have a lineup of about a game a month at the moment. We have our 2 first launches behind us. We've gone through several silent periods. We're in the middle of optimizing several games, and as every trendy publisher does, we've also killed a few games across this year. That's me on a donkey in Marseille, where I'm currently based. I started in mobile games in 2004, together with a company called Mr. Good Living. Mr. Good Living was eventually sold to the US. I moved over to Seattle, where I headed up global marketing communications for Real Networks' games publishing business. After that, I took a few years outside of games. I went into developer tools and social media, and now I'm back since soon 8 months, and it still feels amazing to be back home. So, the App Store. A few words about the marketplace that all of you are hopefully at some level familiar with. Now, I might say some things that you already know, and you might be thinking that I'm not going anywhere, but hopefully it all makes sense after a few slides. So here we go. I think the App Store is an amazing place. I think it's an amazing place because of a few different reasons. On the App Store, you have an immediate and frictionless connection with your players. that wasn't always the case in the games business. You have that now. The devices are able to do a lot of things that we were only dreaming about still a few years ago. You can now actually do those with these amazing high-powered devices sitting in everyone's pocket. There's an existing and passionate player base ready to spend on your game. And still today, a low-cost game production can become a massive commercial success. Now, the numbers are very big. Number one free app in the US makes over 100,000 downloads a day, sometimes a lot more. The number one grossing app makes over 4 million a day globally. And the number one paid app in the US still makes over 50,000 downloads a day. That's big. The realities. There's about 1,000 iOS apps launching every day on the App Store, of which 20% are games. So when you launch a game, basically any day of the week, you're launching together with 200 other developers. 0.2% apps launched last year reached top ranks. Over 1 million apps launched on iOS to date. The average app has made $8,000 in revenue during its lifetime. The median is a lot lower. The outliers, the Rovios and the Supercells in the room, they're pulling up the average. And over 25% of apps submitted to the App Store have been pulled, and over 600,000 apps have never gotten any traction. Why is that? So there's a lot of reasons. This is one of the reasons that we've thought about. So let me introduce the definition of a lemon. A lemon is a car, often new, that is found to be defective only after it has been bought. Any vehicle with numerous severe issues can be termed a lemon. And by extension, any product with flaws too great or severe to serve its purpose can be described as a lemon. That's what a lemon looks like. It's round, yellow. It can be very beautiful from its outside. But I mentioned there's 200 games launching every day on the App Store. But there's only 200 spots in the top chart every day. It's a fight for eyeballs and time, and it's very tough. I used to say when we were a launch partner for the App Store, when it came out, when I was with Gamehouse, I used to say that quality is everything, and that's the only thing you need to think about. Quality is still king, but with free-to-play, things are getting a little bit more complex. So we try to say no to lemons as a publisher. You should say no to lemons as well as either publishers or developers. It's getting, I want to say it's increasingly difficult to judge whether something is a lemon or not. A free-to-play game that doesn't monetize or doesn't retain its players is a lemon, and you should be able to very early on categorize whether it's a lemon or not. So how do you avoid those pesky lemons? And I'll give you a hint. Marketing is one of the things, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit more. But there's 5 things that we feel are very important. And number one, because of the number of games launching and because of many companies doing the same thing over and over and over again, we think innovation is number one. Doing something different in the marketplace. Leaving an everlasting impression on a player. Not providing something that they've played many times before. I think this is going to become increasingly important. And still today, I'm not going to talk about technology in this presentation, but still today there many technologies on the mobile phone and the tablet that are completely underused, that nobody's looking at. And not for technology's sake, but because you can do things, you can provide new experiences using that technology. So innovation is number one. Number two, quality, both in terms of gameplay and technical execution. Buggy games are no good, I know, and it's not as bad as it used to be. It used to be in the way that an average rating was based on everything. So if you had a bug in an update, you were dead. That's fortunately not the case anymore, but still, if you launch something, make sure that it's both good and technically good. Analytics. There's a lot of great free tools to use. Tools are great, but it's even better to understand what you're actually looking at when you're looking at tools. I've literally seen amazing numbers for free-to-play games that the person wasn't aware what they actually meant. That you could break the bank with these numbers if you did certain changes to a game. So when you implement Flurry, make sure that you know what you're looking at, and make sure that you know what you're going after in terms of analytics. Number four, marketing. There's two sides to the story. Well, there's many sides to the story, but two main big sides to that story. It's paid media and earned media. Both tremendously important and really underlying that what you've probably read before and heard before, that don't rely on featuring as your business strategy. It's not something that you can count on. You need to have a marketing strategy and a business strategy in place in order to be able to succeed in the marketplace. There's a third picture forming here, is that the distribution channel is also changing. You've all probably read about messenger services, Kakao, Line, soon WhatsApp. The distribution channel challenge, as it was in the operator era, is slowly returning into the business in a new shape and color. Although now you can actually make money on these distribution channels, whereas it was always slightly challenging to do so with the operators. And number five, global. Think global, have a global business strategy in place. When you launch, look at several countries. Don't think of US as the end-all be-all. You can try out things in smaller countries, bring them to a larger country, and slowly grow from there. Plus, publishing costs, marketing costs in certain areas are much less expensive than they are in North America. So, the playground formula for avoiding lemons: marketing, analytics, global, innovation, quality. Magic with a Q and a cute little rabbit in a hat. That's our formula. We think that these five points are tremendously important when you put together your business strategy around a game. So, with that introduction, going into marketing, and especially this side of marketing, the paid media approach. I'm not going to speak about product marketing. Although we are a firm believer in the power of product marketing also. This is all about paid media, and hopefully paid media that is extremely targeted at getting players and eventually paying players into games. So, what is player acquisition? Player acquisition is performance marketing. Performance marketing is in one sense a little bit of a redundant term, because every marketing should be performance-based, but in more detail, it is a metrics-driven approach to acquire fresh players to your games. A few examples of what paid player acquisition is and what it isn't. apologies, this might be completely redundant to some of you, but I wanted to take it from the beginning. So focus should be, in player acquisition, should be on mobile. Web to mobile conversion and really from any other media to mobile conversion has been poor and still remains poor. Whether that changes over time, we'll see. But some examples of what it can be: cross-promotion using an open cross-promotion network, Facebook mobile ads, other types of mobile ads, free app a day approach. There's several similar services out there, or incentivized ads, such as TapJoy used to be, or as Fiksu Free My Apps, for example, is. What isn't it? So, making a sponsored feature on Touch Arcade or Pocket Gamer and taking over the homepage, that is not a player acquisition strategy. It might bring a few players, but it's more of a brand marketing, a product marketing strategy to make a dent in the industry. Facebook web ads, Google AdWords, or Facebook sponsored posts, all nice things to do, but when you look at the conversion rates of such things, they're always tremendously poor. Price tag. What does it cost to do player acquisition? What does it cost to get a player into a game? This is from TradeMob numbers. 0.80 to $1.50 for incentivized CPI traffic. What does incentivized cost per install traffic means? It means that you give something in return to someone for coming into your game. That means that you can't expect retention for that player to be especially high. $2 to $3.50 for non-incentivized cost per install traffic. This is showing banners or showing videos to players, not giving them anything in return, and getting them to download your game. $4 to $6 for CPC-induced effective CPI. What does that mean? It means that you buy clicks of a banner instead of installs. And then based on the conversion rate from someone clicking your banner to downloading your game, you back out your cost per install. It can be much lower if you have a branded game, for example. Then you can have a much lower, you might have a much lower CPI on this type of approach than you would with some of the other approaches. So these are all levers that can change based on the dynamics of your game. Total effective CPI usually lands in the region of $1 when you use a boosting strategy. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on. So, is that high or low? I don't know. I mean, I guess it's a little bit dependent on how your game performs. So I've heard many times people saying that it costs too much to do player acquisition and we don't have budget. But if you make more than you pay, then it's not really a problem. So getting more into that later on. Some questions that I think when you think about player acquisition as a part of your marketing mix, a few questions that I think you should ask yourself before proceeding. What is your business model? It's become very tricky to do player acquisition for premium games. I still don't think it's impossible to do that, and if anyone wants to discuss that with me later on, I'm happy to do that. This is more about free-to-play. But what is your business model? If you have a paid game, it can be very tricky to do player acquisition. What are your targets? Are you targeting a very high average lifetime value and doing a performance-based approach for that? Or is your target to get into top 10 free? What is your data and your analytics capabilities? Do you know the numbers? Are you able to dive into the numbers that you need to dive into when you start doing player acquisition? Is your game designed to be viral? Does it contain organic player acquisition features? If it doesn't, you should think about that. Because when you go into acquiring players, what will push down your effective cost per install is to have other players being generated from the players that you acquire. How much ammunition do you have? How much budget can you actually put on this? You've all probably read those stories about a marketing budget should be much more than the development budget. What the truth is depends on what your setup is. You can start low and start scaling up from there. Know the numbers and then start scaling up from there. But you need to have some ammunition to actually be able to do this. And kind of redundant, are you ready? Is your game ready? Something to consider before going into actually doing something is what are the dynamics of how people find games? This is a study with about 350 respondents in the US. The number one source for players finding their games is word of mouth. Different types of word of mouth, but this is virality in full effect. Number two is the App Store top chart. What is above the fold in the top chart? So basically, what is top 10 is probably the most looked at, and then top 25 is looked at on the devices. And then number 3 is the featured section. So the top chart is really the only thing you can affect with a performance marketing approach. And it is also about 50% of people find their games in the top chart. So it's not to be overlooked if your game can stand being in the top chart. So if your game monetizes and if your game is viral, it has a space to be in the top chart. So what does that mean? How does the top chart look? It's an algorithm that generates games based on certain metrics that happen in the App Store. What does that mean? So it's a little bit hearsay because nobody outside Apple or Google really knows what the App Store top charts is made out of. You can back out, you can extrapolate information about it, but there are a few things that we do know. Number one is being high in the charts does matter. It does bring virality to a game. On the iOS App Store, it used to be updated every 15 minutes. So what happened there was that there was bots and all kinds of strange activities that you could do to put the game really high up in the charts. So they changed that. Now it updates every 3 hours, and it's a little bit more slow to react to immediate changes. It used to take into account downloads and velocity of the downloads basically only. Now it also takes into account ratings. A higher rated game needs less downloads to get high in the charts versus a lower rated game. That's great as long as your game is good, which of course it always should be. Quality comes first. So what it in effect means is that the highest quality apps are given the most visibility. But you can affect that still today with paid acquisition. Now I lost my chain of thought. But in any case, what you want to know is that what are the numbers in different spots of the chart. If you want to get into top 25, how many downloads do you actually need to get there? And is your game good enough that it will stay there once you're there? Google Play is different. The paid and free charts, they move less quickly, and they take into account a lot more data than iOS. As you can imagine, Google's background is from search, and they have they have a mountain of tools available to their disposal when generating the algorithm for the chart generating. It also says, because of the things that it takes into account and the historical numbers it takes into account, is that the focus should be on creating a flawless, great game. And if you find something that is not, that you need to fix, you should fix it immediately and immediately push out the new build. Over the 30 days, the 31st days, you should push it really hard and get a stellar game on the marketplace. It also means that a bursting or a boosting strategy on Google Play is less effective. And what they also do is that they take into account some of those same things they take into account in generating the top charts, they take into account when generating search results. So everything is a cause and effect of a variety of different things on Google Play. The end result is still similar on Google Play. It's just another flavor, is that highest quality apps are given the most visibility there also, which is good. Then going into doing the actual player acquisition. What is your target? If you're doing a free-to-play game, your target looks like that. You want to have a whale in your games. Undeniably, you want to have a lot of whales in your games. So you target the whale. And it's ironic. Historically, the biggest whale hunters always were in Scandinavia and in Far East Asia. And now that approach has become a little less bloody, a little less violent than it used to be. So then you ask yourself, okay, I want to hit that whale. How am I going to hit it? You have a variety of choices. You can go for a bazooka, cinco in Finnish. You can go for a sniper rifle. You can go for a shotgun, or you can go for a machine gun, or you can decide not to kill the whale and capture it with a net. All of these strategies have their own space, and I'll talk a little bit about each strategy. So the shotgun, basically trying to hit whatever comes in your way, not a very accurate way of shooting, but it can cause a lot of damage. For example, a free app a day type approach, build on a cost per install or a project fee basis is such an approach. What the effective is a high ranking on the free charts. You'll get high. Platforms, you can do it on iOS. You can also do it on Android. Less effective, but you can also do it on Android. The sniper rifle, you're trying to hit a precise target, a whale. It involves a lot of data analysis. It involves you getting very, very close to the data of the game and tying that data to your player acquisition strategy. It is not something that you can do with your left hand. It is something that you need either an external person or hire an internal team of people to do. You need to calculate effective lifetime value. You need to analyze the source. You need to optimize towards a high effective lifetime value. And when you start to tie in some predictive analysis to lifetime value, you're going to cut down your speed in acquiring new whales, and you're going to get a massively good effect. And it also involves trying a lot of different sources, because some sources for player acquisition are going to perform better than others. Effect, you're going to get the whale. And platform, well, a big data performance-driven marketing approach works, I want to say, basically on any platform. So it's not something that you should necessarily think of this as for that platform or another. but it really works on whatever your chosen distribution platform is. The machine gun. Trying to hit a bunch of targets at the same time with what sometimes or usually is a broken gun. Incentivized traffic. So incentivized traffic doesn't work really for anything else than trying to get high into the ranking. And if you see incentivized traffic being expensive, it's something that you should definitely not do. But it can have a space in a larger scheme. I'll get to that. So you get a lot of downloads. You can drive your game high into the ranking, but you don't get any users. The bazooka. So trying to hit the target with all of the tools mentioned at the same time. Your effect is going to be is high ranking and hopefully a lot of viral users. It's also a high budget approach, so it's something that you shouldn't proceed into doing immediately when you launch a game, but rather at some point you can consider this a strategy. And the fishnet. So trying to lure the whale in and keeping it alive, that's great. That's exactly what you want to do. Especially if you have several games, you might want to have the whale swimming in your own pool and build out a cross-promotion approach. There's also ready-made cross-promotion and free player exchange tools out there provided by, for example, Playhaven or Chartboost. So definitely speak to these guys when you want to do even free player acquisition. And hopefully the effect then becomes retained whales swimming in your own pool of games. The golden rule, which is kind of should be self-evident, is that your investment into any of these tools should be lower than the return. That's a golden rule for any business, really. In order to make money on a business activity, you should spend less. In this respect, your effective cost per player acquisition should be lower than the average lifetime value of a player. This needs to also take into account organic users coming in from players. So you shouldn't look at one player as a single entity. You should look at what happens after that player comes in. A timeline approach. So this is, I'm happy to send this to anyone afterwards, because this is where I feel it all makes sense. I don't necessarily like this slide a lot, but this is how you can lay it out. So the different toolkits has a space at a variety at different places in the timeline. So it's very useful to go through a silent launch for a free-to-play game, know the numbers, study the numbers, treat the market as a sandbox, and see what your virality is, see what your retention numbers are, see what your monetization numbers are. And only then, when those minimum benchmarks are hit, you go into a larger market. Weapons, sniper rifle, fishnet, all the way, basically the test month here is to replicate what you've done in a smaller market in a larger market. If you feel strong enough, you just jump over that and directly into doing a big splash in a larger market when your game is ready. But that is not something you should do if you don't have the funds to do it, or if your game isn't made to actually survive such a burst. The last thing you want to do is put the game high up the charts and have it sail out immediately. That's a horrible thing to happen. So you want to know your numbers, and you want to line up a big budget to do this. But the numbers are always very helpful for you to line up investments from VCs or angels or whoever you're discussing with. So retention and monetization is the end-all be-all of free-to-play games. So when you've done all your low-cost activity, that's when you can also line up some external investments. And then when you've done that, you've pushed your game high up the charts, you can go into an ongoing player acquisition strategy. And basically take some of the money that you have coming in from the game, you put back to player acquisition. You go into a loop. And as I said, I'm happy to send these slides to anyone that wants them. Now what? So, what next? Few recommendations. Either become the publisher of your game, or work with a publisher. Becoming a publisher involves actually taking it serious and doing a business strategy approach to what you want the outcome to be. Don't do a half-assed job. Don't be the fail whale. Read the blogs. There's a lot of great blogs focusing on a metrics-driven marketing approach. Eric Seufert writes a lot of great things. Nicholas Lavelle, Joseph Kim, and also Game Analytics in Denmark writes a lot of good things. Poke the partners who know their stuff. Ville here from Playhaven is a good. He's sitting over there. He knows his stuff. They have a great toolkit. Talk to them. Talk to Trademark. Talk to Chartboost. There's a lot of partners that are willing to share information for free. And try, experiment, figure out the numbers. Test marketing doesn't cost a lot. Going all in is expensive, and you don't want to do that without intelligence. Then lastly, 2 slides about Playground. Playground, it's all about the game. And who you're going to call? Call Marcus. He's our person in Finland. That's his email address. If you want to speak to us about a game you have coming up, or you want advice or anything, Marcus is your man. Stuff I tried to tell you today. Avoid a lemon strategy. Make sure you have a marketing approach in place. Do magic. With the publisher or without. Marketing and player acquisition is one part of it, a very, very important part. There's other parts of it as well. Talk with the partners, find out more. Knowledge comes usually for free. And if you have a game that you feel fit with our magic approach, you should definitely talk to Marcus. Let's play. And if you want to send me an email, you can find me on nolemons@playground.com. Thank you.